I used to have a very bad speech impediment,
Okay.
and it was hard for me to speak. And I had a very, very bad stuttering problem that went away as I got older. But so writing was kind of like my outlet. It was my way of communication,
Hmm.
and it graduated from just like writing just to communicate to people, and then it turned into like writing to express my emotions and my feelings.
Hello, you beautiful musicians, and welcome back to the Musician Guidance Podcast. If you're new around here, my name's Mac. I'm the founder of Musician Guidance and podcast host. Today, I'm joined alongside the founder and CEO of BeatStars, which is the #1 music marketplace to buy and sell beats. Without further ado, Abe Batshon, how are you doing today?
Hey Mac, I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on here. I'm really, really excited to be here with you.
Happy to hear it, and I'm super excited for this too. I've actually had this circled on my calendar for since we kind of arranged it because
That's
at
awesome.
Musician Guidance, we're all about like empowering artists, and I
Cool.
know that's something that you preach. And with BeatStars, you've paid out, I think it's over $200 million now to the community, which
Yeah.
is just so incredible because it is empowering the artist, right? So I'm
Yeah.
super excited to talk all about BeatStars. Before we get into that, though, tell me a little bit more about yourself, your story, and how you got into music and business.
Yeah. It's a funny story, man. I mean, listen, I grew up in Hayward, California,
Okay.
and right outside of Oakland, a very rich hip hop legacy that comes out of Oakland and the Bay Area in general,
Hmm.
especially in the 80s and 90s. Grew up, I'm a son of a family of refugees from Palestine that migrated over after the 67 and 72 war. Um, and so I, you know, just kind of a product of my environment, kind of living between these two worlds of,
Right.
being a Palestinian and, living under very like strict traditions and rules, and also kind of like being immersed in hip hop because of, my older cousins, and as well as just like even just, from a territory standpoint, Hayward is pretty significant as well in hip hop. One of the the biggest kind of like iconic hip hop artists during the 90s was an artist named Spice One, who lived like down the street from me, just a few
Oh,
doors
wow.
down. And he was our neighborhood hero. And this guy just was just amazing, and then had a lot of older cousins that were really obsessed with hip hop the same way that I was. But I would say that for me, I started songwriting and writing poetry at the age of 9. I was 9 years old. I used to have a very bad speech impediment,
Okay.
and it was hard for me to speak. And I had a very, very bad stuttering problem that went away as I got older. But so writing was kind of like my outlet. It was my way of communication,
Hmm.
and it graduated from just like writing just to communicate to people, and then it turned into like writing to express my emotions and my feelings, and it started with poetry and then songwriting, and and then growing up, just a few doors down from Spice One, kind of being immersed in hip hop, I was able to kind of have like an inside peek at what you know music can do for an artist. And so I just became obsessed with music, man. I just became obsessed with music, and listening to artists like my early inspirations, guys like Too Short, DOC, Public Enemy, Easy E, even Fresh Prince back then. And then before all of that, like I barely even spoke English. And so my grandmother raised me, and I was listening to just old Egyptian music from legends like Kulthum and Abdul Halim, and just the most majestic and beautiful, elegant music you'd
Okay.
ever listen to. Beautiful melodies, orchestras, strings, drums, and just
Right.
everything, keys. And so music just always called out to me. um and then I guess how I got into like the music and business was, um I always, I don't know. I just fascinated with what music resonated with people and what didn't. And I started like having the ability to kind of like identify what was going to be a hit song and what wasn't, and what was going to be like a long lasting, generational, legacy hit
Hmm.
over stuff that was just like microwavable and that was
Sure.
not going to be here for a long time. So I became obsessed with the dynamic of why certain music resonated with human beings and others. So I would listen to new songs and I would like tell my mom like, oh, that's going to be number one. That's going to be number one. And I was right every time
That's awesome. That's
as a
so
kid,
cool.
as a
Yeah.
kid. And so and then just kind of being fascinated with music in general and the commercialization of it, I started like trying to figure out like, okay, I'm a songwriter, I'm writing songs, and I'm writing and I'm using like, I'm using beats from, the B side of a tape of like my favorite rappers.
Right.
It's not my instrumental. And so I started like, freestyling over other popular instrumentals. And I was like, where can I find my own instrumental? And
Mm.
and I came across luckily, like we had a family friend that was in Silicon Valley that owned a computer company that built custom workstations for tech companies in Silicon
Okay.
Valley at that time, and I was just so damn obnoxious about technology, and so every time I would see my dad's friend, I was like, hey man, I need a computer. I need a computer. Come on, man. What is it going to take? What is it going to take? And I think that I remember the night my dad was hosting a poker game at the house, and he had all his friends there, and the family friend lost a lot of money. My dad took me to the side. He said, go ask him for a computer now, because he owes me money, and
Okay.
we'll swap out. And so I asked him for a computer. He gave me a computer, and this is maybe I was like 12, 13 years old, and this was kind of like the early stages of internet.
Right.
I don't even think there was a browser at that time, man. It was old, but I just became so fascinated with the computer, and eventually had upgraded to like a stronger computer that had AOL, that had
Yeah.
AOL on there, and so back then you had to use like an application client like an AOL just to connect to the internet, or so be able to browse, and so that just kind of like opened a whole new world for me. And as I'm writing songs, I'm like 14, 15 years old, and it's 1996 and 97, and I'm trying to find my tribe, trying to find my community. AOL had a bunch of chat rooms, and so I would go in there and I would find all the musicians, all the artists, all the
Okay.
music producers, and I'd connect and make friends with them in these chat rooms. These producers from like Japan, from the Netherlands, from South Africa, from everywhere.
Right.
And it was a small community, man. It was just a small little community back then. And so I started like bartering for beats. I started like bartering for beats. I was like, oh, okay, this is where I can get my instrumentals.
Right.
Uh, and so um, this is like I, very early days of the internet,
Hmm.
and licensing music was not a thing. It was didn't
Right.
exist. And downloading high quality studio files, wave files, license agreements, that stuff didn't exist. And so I would ask these producers like, hey, can I get that beat? Can I get that beat that you got there? And I was like, I got $10 for you. I would barter with them. I got $10 for you. I couldn't afford the thousands of dollars of licenses that existed in traditional music at that time.
Hmm.
And their beats were fire. These beats were fire. And I was like, you can keep the ownership of it. It's yours. I just want access to the file. And so back then we couldn't even download the files. And
Okay.
so they would send me like a credit card form, and I'd beg my mom to buy the $10 beat for me, and they would mail me a CD. these producers would mail me a CD with all the high quality studio files, the waves, the stems, and I'd have to wait like a week or two. And if they were really far away, sometimes a month before I can get my CD.
Right.
Um, and that just um, opened up, subconsciously. I was participating in the new world of online collaboration, just like not knowing,
Before you
just
knew it,
being,
yeah.
just being intuitive. Yeah, trying to be resourceful, just trying to I was always trying to find out how things work, and how, well, is there a shortcut here, is there a hack here, where can I figure out how to do things. And I've always been that kid,
Yeah.
always figured out how to get a good grade without doing the work. And
Hey,
but
work smart, not hard.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I'm always try to find the problems and things, and I think that was the genesis of BeatStars.
Mhm.
That was the problem I was solving, and I was solving it for myself. I was solving it for myself, and I wrote hundreds of songs on the internet, man, from producers on the internet.
Wow.
But as I got older, the the music production collaboration space never evolved. It never got better. It never modernized. Even as the internet got faster, and accessibility was available, the collaboration process just never got better. And I was like, okay, well, I'm really passionate about this. I love writing music,
Mhm.
um, and I love the music industry, and I'm following all the labels, and I'm following all these artists that are on these labels. And it was, during a time where, if if you're assigned to a certain label, it was like an exciting time to be, following that roster. And it's like, who's next? Who did they discover next? Who did they develop next? And
Mhm.
it was a really cool time. It was really heavily curated and developed. And that was the dream, right? It was the dream was to, get signed by a label. And I'm sending out my demo tapes, and I'm trying to get signed, and I'm trying to like work. I had even had a couple labels like fly me down to LA, and it was just like,
Oh, right on.
oh shit, okay, this is kind of cool, you know.
Yeah.
But but the independent factor, the independent factor of controlling how I create my music was so interesting to me. So as the traditional music industry kind of operated in a silo with the creation process, and you had to go to the studio, and they put you in with a specific producer, and they were going to craft your sound for you. And I was like,
Mhm.
that's kind of weird. Like, I want to craft my own sound,
Exactly. Yeah.
and it just wasn't possible, man. It just wasn't possible. And so um I started kind of like, in 2008, I started building beat we started building beat it was called Beat Kings at the time.
Okay.
And we started building, I found a developer on the internet. His name is Joseph Aguilar, who is kind of building some music sites already. And he was a young developer. He's still with the company today, the first kind of like the founding team.
Right
And
on.
still building technology with BeatStars today, 14 years later. And so he's in Canada. He was in Canada. He's from Kitchener,
Heck
Canada.
yeah. Okay, nice. Right on.
Yeah. And
Represent.
so, yeah, so Canada had a big part in the development and technology of BeatStars, and where it is today. And so we just started crafting up. It was really just kind of like a blog site at first. We're like, hey, we just want to showcase cool producers. I don't even think we had like a payment mechanism at first. Like, there was no way to
Okay.
like buy beats. It was just like, let's just showcase dope. I was just curating. Like, I was a born A&R, right?
Right. Right.
I was just, just discovering producers on the internet, inviting them to give us their tracks to get featured on beatkings.com. And then eventually, as I did my underground guerrilla marketing, just going into these forums, going into these spaces, letting people know that this website exists. And oh man, I miss those days, to be honest with you. It was
The
fun.
grind. Yeah, those
Oh
days.
dude,
Yeah.
so fun, so
Yeah.
fun. I miss that shit. And so I'm like, trying to just get anyone to kind of like pay attention to what we were doing.
Sure.
And and then we started attracting a little bit of an audience of people, where every post was just fire. It was really just a curated invite only platform, and it was just like all curated by me, you know. And I would sift through 100 beats from a producer, but only pick like one or two tracks, and it was just
Oh,
heavily,
wow.
heavily curated. It was every post was fire, 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 and artists started like pinging the website, and they started like sending us messages, and they're like, hey, I want to buy that beat you just posted, you know, how can I buy that? So I was like, okay. I said, Joe, let's put a PayPal button, let's see what happens, you know.
Okay.
And we'll pay the producer out, you know. We built out like a little payment system for the
Sure.
producers. It just started out organically, man, one by one, just small feature by small feature. Really just started out with just trying to solve a problem for myself, as a recording artist, to have access to music. And
Right.
yeah, that's, I guess, I don't know if that answered your question, but
Definitely. No, that's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, I love to hear of the journey because, like, kind
yeah,
of an outsider looking in, I see the amazing success, which is awesome. But
yeah.
behind every success story, there's like that grind, that journey. So I
Oh my
appreciate
god.
you taking us through yours. That's very cool. And yeah,
Yeah,
it kind of just evolved, I guess, out of solving a problem for yourself and then realizing other people have that problem and then just kind of letting the demand almost kind of dictate where it went. Can
right,
you can
right.
you and you did touch on the evolution there a bit. Can you kind of share kind of what I know it started as Beat Kings,
Hmm.
kind of where it started and kind of where it is now? I know you've partnered with Sony and just
Yeah.
can you walk me through the evolution of it, I guess?
Sure, yeah. So initially, it just started as like an invite-only website. We had built some first ever features that ever existed on the internet. Like you couldn't download high quality wave files and stems in 2008. That never
Hmm.
existed. You couldn't download a license agreement in 2008. You couldn't like do collaborator splits, so you
Right.
can have multiple people getting paid at the point of transaction. We just, like even things from categorization, like that stuff didn't exist, by like mood, by BPM, by key. Like none of these things ever existed, and we were the first ones to ever introduce this kind of like model to the market. Even from like storing these high quality files in the cloud, um, you know, you know, never happened. And so we just kept adding feature after feature after feature, and I kept solving problem after problem for myself. And then we added like a lyric pad, and then we added like a rhyme
Okay.
dictionary, and then we added like a looper on the player, and then we built some embeddable storefronts so people would embed their. It started out with Flash, and they would embed, the producers would embed their storefronts on their blog sites or their WordPress or on
Right.
SoundClick. Back then, a lot of producers used to have SoundClick pages, so but there was no way to license or sell beats, so they would take our player and embed them on these kind of like sites where you can kind of hack the HTML. And then it was MySpace, and then they would embed them on MySpace, and then it would be Facebook, and it would be like an embeddable
Right.
storefront on the we turned BeatStars into a Facebook app, and people would, you could sell and license beats on Facebook. So anywhere we would find distribution was really how we kind of built the reputation, because the marketplace itself was not big yet. And so
Hmm.
in those early days, so the initial kind of solution was building these embeddable storefronts that our producers can use to sell on these websites. And the model was, very radical at the time. 100% of the revenue went back to the producer.
Right
A
on.
100%. And producers got paid, at the point of transaction, directly to their merchant accounts, whether that was PayPal or then Stripe later.
Right.
And this was all radical things that never existed. And then, we were like, okay, let's be kind of like the anti-gatekeeper. Let's be the anti-industry. And that's kind of how we kind of developed our reputation over time. Was, all right, let's give our sellers all of the customers' information, all the buyers' information, right? Let's give them all the data that we can give them, so they can be empowered to do the heavy lifting. Because I figure like this. It was during a time where the music industry was completely collapsed, right?
Hmm.
We were in the middle. We built BeatStars in the middle of a recession, like a really big recession.
Right.
The labels had like chopped off 70-80% of their staff, and
Wow.
music was dead. There was no Spotify yet, right? Spotify was not, I mean, Spotify was not what it was back
Sure.
then.
Yeah.
Today,
Yeah.
YouTube was still not generating money. You know, the social networks weren't paying nothing for all this music that was being hosted on their sites. They were hosting that music illegally.
Hmm.
And so, there was really like the new we kind of fell into the new, I think we're part of the driving force of the new music industry, to be honest with you.
Right.
And so we're like, okay, since we don't have millions and millions of dollars in funding, I bootstrapped this company, um, never took on any money, and
Wow.
it was like, how are we going to do this, from the ground up? Like, how are we going to build a company? How are we going to build them? How are we going to build this company that we aspire to be, without any cash? And
Hmm.
um, and the thing that kept going back in my brain was like, okay, BeatStars is not a digital music service, even though it is. BeatStars is going to be the first music entrepreneur platform. And this was going to be a platform where people can create businesses. And so let's not focus on building the BeatStars brand today. Let's not
Right.
focus on building the BeatStars marketplace today. Let's provide the tools for our creators to be entrepreneurs and build their own business. And no one was talking to creators like entrepreneurs yet. No one was
Hmm.
even communicating this stuff. That's what we were doing. We were
Right.
teaching them how to build business, teaching them how to register their business, teaching them how to market their businesses, how to brand their businesses, what branding and identity and communication and messaging and email marketing flows. Like, we're like, let's do what we can control, which is use all the things that we learned, um, through building BeatStars, and just share that knowledge back with all the creators, right?
Hmm.
And that
Awesome.
was kind of like the turning point for us, where I realized, where it's like, it's not about BeatStars. Like, it's not about us. It's
Yeah.
cool. All right, cool. We're building the technology, but our pride and joy, our legacy is going to be how many other brands that we've helped make successful, how many other entrepreneurs that we've
I love
helped
that.
make successful.
Yeah.
That's our legacy. That's our definition of success. And so I adopted that early, bro. I adopted that shit early. And it was, now you're seeing it as the mainstream, right?
Hmm.
But we were, and I don't like to be the guy to say we were the first, No, it's like, because it came from a genuine place. It
Right.
came from a place where we didn't have resources. It came from a place where I'm a creator entrepreneur, and I wanted to see the rest of the creators. Um, I just felt a sense of like pride in building technology to empower people's lives. Like, that shit gave me a high every day. Every
Right.
time I built a new feature, it just, especially first to market features, for like things that would just unlock a whole new world. I was like, this is fun, dude. This is great. Like, that's my reward.
Yeah.
That's my reward when I get an email or a message, Abe, you know, BeatStars, I got married this year because of BeatStars, or
That's awesome.
bought a house. I did this. It's like, man, that's God's work, man. That's
Yeah.
like, that's all I need. That's all I need, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just became addictive, and it became obsessive. And the platform just grew and grew and grew over time. Of course, that, we had to wait a good, maybe 9 years, 8, 9 years, before kind of like the new media space evolved.
Right.
And we had to wait for YouTube to evolve. We had to wait for Spotify to evolve. We had to wait for, for the music industry to get back to where it used to be in terms of like monetization and commercialization. But we went through the mud, and it was so worth it. It was just so worth it to be there. And now, like, you're seeing, millions of songs being made on BeatStars every single year. And
Yeah.
like you mentioned, we have the first kind of like pipeline, for global publishing administration for all creators, through our partnership with Sony. and that never existed before. These things never existed before. For for us to kind of be part of changing the landscape of music, man. It's like it's so rewarding, man. So rewarding, especially how because of how much it changes people's lives. You know.
There's no doubt about it. BeatStars revolutionized, the music industry. And as you were talking about there, you had to wait on YouTube, on Spotify, and other of these, massive
Mm-hmm.
enterprises now, which is just insane. That's so cool, so cool in my opinion.
Yeah.
And um,
But what's great though,
what?
what was great throughout the whole process is like, even though the music industry was going through shit, people still needed to make music. They still needed production. It's
Right.
in our DNA, right? So the the transactions were still happening. The artists were still finding the producers. They were still telling their stories, even though like no one was making money back then.
Mm-hmm.
Artists still found a value, and they still found a purpose in, like, having a piece of art that they can call their own.
Yeah.
So like, that's when it really kind of like also light bulb in my brain too, and it was like, hmm, BeatStars could possibly be recession proof, because um artists need to express themselves
Yeah.
regardless of what the economic conditions are. It's in it like it's it benefits our mental health, it benefits our
100%.
emotional health, like it just benefits our lives, and it elevates our lives. Like, we need to write music, we need to perform, we
Yeah.
need to record, we need to, like, whatever it is. And it's regardless of what the shitty terms of the music industry is, and what the monetization model looks like today or yesterday. It doesn't matter. Like, artists don't make music for money. I mean, sure, the benefits of the financial part, that reward is great from your supporters and fans, as you build a great catalog for yourself. But those initial first 100 songs, like, we're doing it for ourselves,
Exactly.
to fulfill our lives. So and that's why I think BeatStars has been here for 14 years, through now two recessions now. you know
Yeah.
yep.
100%. No, that's awesome. And it kind of almost shows that artists are entrepreneurs, and maybe we forgot about that when, major companies and labels were kind of the only way to break the scene, so to speak. So yeah, it's almost like the recession almost was
Blessing.
uh yeah, basically, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Very
But
cool.
yeah, because the resources dried up,
Yeah.
and so artists had to be resourceful. They
Mm-hmm.
had to figure out their own path, and so the DIY movement became very prevalent. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the system is not going to take care of us. We'll build our own system,
Exactly.
right? We'll
So
build
cool.
our own models, right? We'll sell
Yeah.
direct to consumer. We'll figure it out. We
Mm-hmm.
don't. You'll be surprised how entrepreneurial and how savvy and how technical producers and artists and songwriters are. Man, they are business
Yeah.
owners, and they should be treated that way. And it kind of frightens me sometimes. It kind of frightens me sometimes a lot. Actually, frightens me a lot, with how closed off, and with how um, how gate kept the industry still is today. And we still don't treat these creators as entrepreneurs, and we still don't empower them with the tools to build their own business that they can make revenue today and tomorrow, and project a business for themselves.
Exactly.
It's we're still at the under the grasp of the industry, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're trending in the right direction, and I mean
Yeah,
that's one goal of mine to help out in regards to that. But every day's a grind, right?
it is a
But
struggle.
for those that maybe haven't come
Mm-hmm.
across BeatStars, or maybe have come across it but haven't bought or sold anything on it yet, can you walk me through that process, in
Yeah.
terms of how that works, and also the copyright and licenses too, how that all comes into play?
Sure, sure. So at the core of it, BeatStars is a networking hub, a discovery hub for where songwriters and recording artists discover music production, for their next, single or album. And a lot of people don't know what beats are. They think, oh, it's just like a drum beat, right? They think that's just a drum beat. No, beats on BeatStars are full compositions. They can be commercially released as songs. The only thing that's missing from the production is the vocal. So when you go on BeatStars, you're listening to a fully arranged composition that has verses, choruses, bridges, hooks, you name it. It has
Right.
all the elements of what a song is. And you can, as a recording artist, you can go in and customize it as well by downloading the stems and, remove sounds if you want to, or add things to it. And so we operate, and so those pieces of production are then licensed by the recording artists and songwriters. And the way that we've kind of structured our business and our license agreements, our default agreements, is we don't operate on a royalty free model. So we believe intellectual property is intellectual property, and
Sure.
everybody deserves their cut and their share. And so music producers by default have a 50% publishing share of every track that gets licensed off the platform. And they can customize the agreement to however they want. We're empowering entrepreneurs. They should decide how they want to license their art, their
Exactly.
intellectual property. It's not really up to us. They can add terms where they actually even get a piece of the master. They can add terms where it's sometimes where the production license may expire after a certain amount of time, after 10 years, or after a certain amount of usage rights.
Right.
But there's different options, and you can a lot of producers create an unlimited license that allows for unlimited usage. And there's an exclusive license as well too, where you can be the only person that licenses that track, and you're the only person that has the rights to it, and no one else can license it. So there's something for everyone, and there's something for everyone at any stage in their careers. Like when I was a young artist, I didn't care about too much of like the licensing terms. I just wanted access to the beats.
Right.
I needed to develop, and if it had distribution rights and I had my ownership in it, and I had a license for a master, cool, perfect. And you can download the MP3, as like kind of your introductory kind of experience, and then you can upgrade to a wave file, and then you can upgrade to a wave plus the stems, so you have all the stems of the production. Then you can upgrade to an unlimited license, then you can upgrade to an exclusive license if you want. So there's something for every stage of where you are as an artist, and I think it's important for all artists to kind of know where they are in their
Sure.
careers. And that initial kind of like investment in your career can get expensive if you're talking about spending a lot of money on unlimited licenses and exclusive licenses, especially when you're first starting out. You really need to develop. You really need access to cheap production. You need to kind of just put in your 10,000 hours. Your first 100
Yeah.
songs may suck. Your first 150 songs may suck, until you really find yourself as an artist. In the beginning days, I noticed a lot of artists are kind of mimicking their favorite artist at first, in which I did the same thing too. I was trying to sound like everyone under the sun, until I put in enough hours to discover, like, oh, okay, I want to take a little bit of all these guys, and this is who I am. And I think a lot of artists, when they're first developing, when they're first building out their initial song library, just get access to whatever you can get access to. Put those 10,000 hours in. Get the most cheapest license, at first. Um, get and then you'll have a different appreciation for the higher quality stuff as you get better and better.
As you
So,
developed, yeah.
yeah, as you
Hmm.
develop. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. And so, um, you talked about it there, about it being a great way to, buy cheap, good quality beats kind of when starting out. If we look at the other side, for the sellers, for those that are selling beats and maybe don't have like a known brand yet or too much of an audience, what would be some recommendations for them, in terms of, you know, finding buyers ultimately?
Yeah, great question. Great question. I think um right now, the BeatStars marketplace is the most widely used website for discovering and licensing beats. It's
Mhm.
the biggest in the world, right? Millions
Right.
and millions of people are utilizing the marketplace. It could be difficult to kind of get discovered when you have that much production and that many users and
Sure.
so many people. And so we've created a BeatStars kind of like promotional system that allows producers to buy sponsored locations, even
Okay.
even during in stream as well too. So it's kind of like a Instagram ads on BeatStars where it's impression based, and you can get your music heard and by all the listeners on the platform, and that can kind of like force the issue. While doing that, especially early on, I would even say, give away a bunch of free downloads too. Give away a bunch of free downloads, and BeatStars allows you to kind of like gatekeep the free download in exchange for like an email address or a phone number or a social media follow on your favorite platform to
Okay.
build that audience so
It's
you
like
can
that
reach.
lead magnet kind of.
Yeah, so lead generation. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, lead generation. So building your leads, building your initial leads at first, right? Trying to get your production, in as many people's hands as possible, initially, right?
Right.
Building an audience of 1,000 artists, building an audience of a couple thousand. Um, and then starting your retargeting, your remarketing process with that by providing value as much as you can over time and being consistent.
Mhm.
I think the number one thing that we've seen is the biggest indicator of success on BeatStars is um, having a consistent release cycle. So releasing music 2 or 3 times a week. Even some
Okay.
producers release a beat a day, and that's kind of like the beauty of music production. Like you can create a beat a day. It's very possible in today's world with the amount of
Sure.
tools and samples that are out there, and and the amount of like resources that producers have today. Like there's probably no reason why you can't create a commercially viable beat every single day.
Right. Yeah.
But a lot of producers get in their own way sometimes. They overthink their production, and they get scared to upload, or they don't finish the production. And so I tell those folks like consistency is much more greater in terms of priority and importance than worrying about um you know if the beat's perfect or not, right?
Right.
I think let get go out there, get feedback, consistently put out music in this kind of like very noisy world that we live in. Upload your beats to YouTube and use the proper metadata tags. Target a niche sound at first, I would recommend. So a
Hmm.
lot of producers, when they're first starting out, they'll focus on really like 2 or 3 tags, meta tags, keywords, and they'll like just really try to own those keywords initially. um Try not try, and as well on BeatStars too. So try not to get into a very, very crowded space of keywords where there's a lot of
Right.
competition. Try to find a couple type beats, artist type beats, or genres or sounds where maybe it's less competitive, but maybe there's consistent volume of search, or there's a trending search trend that's happening where you're like, okay, I like this new artist that just came out, and I'm betting on that new artist to have longevity, so I'm going to ride that new artist's keyword for long periods of time. And
Interesting.
the best way to do that is going on Google Trends,
Hmm.
filtering by YouTube, and kind of like, or Google itself, and kind of start looking at what is trending in terms of keywords, and doing some research on those artists and really listening to their catalog and trying to see if those are the type of people that you want to kind of build a niche sound around, or those are the type of artists that maybe would be interested in your production. You know what I mean? And use those tags on BeatStars, use those tags on YouTube, and it's the easiest and most cost efficient way to get discovered and build an audience.
Yeah, that's great advice. Kind of using a proven method rather than just taking a gamble on what you're doing. So
For
no,
sure.
yeah,
For sure.
definitely.
I mean, in the beginning days, you got to throw shit out there. You just got to throw shit out there. Find
Yeah.
out who you are, get feedback. Um, you know, give away a bunch of free shit, build a an audience of emails and phone numbers that you can retarget to, and
Hmm.
yeah,
Definitely. I
yeah.
want to ask something that we kind of touched on earlier.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned when you were kind of starting out, you just wanted good quality beats. You weren't too involved or care too
Yeah.
much about the licenses and all that stuff. And those can be very complicated. So for buyers that are maybe new to the process and new to learning about licenses, how can someone purchasing beats on BeatStars ensure that the license fits their needs?
Good question. Good question. I think anytime you're, dealing with contracts and agreements, it may make sense to consult, a music industry lawyer. There's a
Hmm.
lot of like great YouTube videos out there that break down like the different license types and what they could be used for. So really do I think BeatStars also has some videos and help articles on our help desk and on BeatStars Academy that kind of breaks down what's really in these licenses, so you
Right.
know what you're getting yourself into. Yeah, and it's just really just being self-aware and being curious and building up a knowledge base for yourself as a creator slash entrepreneur. You should know everything about your business. You should know everything about what you're getting yourself into, what you're attaching yourself to as well too. And just being careful with, because BeatStars is an open marketplace, just doing some vetting on the people that you're licensing music from, making sure that they're reputable producers, making sure maybe you can message them and develop a relationship with them, kind of understand how they operate their business, building relationship, getting that kind of FaceTime with them in terms of how they run their business and what the expectations are. So yeah, man, there's so much resources and information that's out there, I think.
Yeah.
Um but we do have like a quick guide on every license, so exactly kind of
Okay.
what the usage and terms are. So every time you open a license or add it to your cart, there's like a quick guide of like what's included in this thing.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
so it kind of gives people just a little cheat sheet of what they're getting themselves into.
Oh, right on. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this: what does the future of BeatStars look like over, the 14 years? It's definitely evolved. You've built new partnerships. Can you share anything that's coming or?
Yeah, I mean, because we've been, working on legacy code for so long, 14 years of legacy code. We have the last 3 years, we've been completely rebuilding the platform to modernize the technology and make the technology even more scalable.
Mhm.
We're building some new products on top of it. We're launching BeatStars Pay. We've already launched in Brazil, and we're launching in the rest of Latin America and South America, Central America, this within the next 30 days.
Oh, right
And
on.
we built out our own kind of like fintech wallet system, so creators can connect their bank accounts and PayPal accounts to withdraw funds. And so the goal of what BeatStars Pay is basically to like globalize BeatStars and be able to empower producers to accept local currencies in every single country around the world, accept over 200 payment methods all around the world. So
Wow.
we're not just like relying on PayPal anymore. So empowering producers to be able to grow their business by accepting very localized payment services that
Mhm.
exist in different countries. Everyone has their own version of Venmo in Brazil. They have their own version of payment providers in Mexico, and same thing across all, like in we pay in China and
Right.
everywhere else. So our goal is to really make the marketplace much more accessible, much more um, um, friendly to multiple languages. So the platform will be localized in different languages around the world.
Right
Um,
on.
and then we're going to be working on some new business models that may kind of like shift how we do business too. We're going to expand on the sound kit service that we have. That's for sure. Um, we got tons of stuff in the
Got a
pipeline.
lot on your plate.
Yeah, there's tons
Yeah.
of stuff. I think right now, really just focusing on making the platform more accessible globally for the global um, market of
Right.
artists. artists and producers. So again, like we work for them. We want the producers to have the ability to generate more revenue. And right now, that's kind of like the low hanging fruit, is to
Mhm.
to open up over 200 payment methods, open up the platform in countries that really it's not available, where PayPal is not available as well too, like Nigeria and Ukraine and
Right.
Turkey, places like
Okay.
that, where they're hungry for the BeatStars platform, and they're not able to sell their content because of where they're born and where they live, which is like
Hmm.
horrible, sucks.
Yeah.
So we're figuring out like just more accessibility. That's our main goal right now.
Right on. Well, I know yourself and your team is extremely busy. And in addition to doing all that, you're launching a podcast soon, Pay the
Yes.
Creators. Can you share about it and maybe when we can expect it?
Yeah, I think the first episode will drop within the next 30 days. That's for
Okay.
sure. We filmed 9 episodes. They're all ready to go.
Okay.
So Pay the Creators is kind of my excuse to get closer to the community, where I know as a CEO, sometimes running the company, you kind of get sidetracked with so many things that are happening within the
Sure.
organization, where you kind of like, man, I don't talk to the community as much. I don't hear their challenges. I don't get to spend time in terms of, you know, the things that they care about, and be able to, as a product person like me, take that data and information to make sure that we're serving that community better. And then also the other flip side to that is producers are like completely ignored. Producers, especially in media, right? And they're producing all these like hit songs, and no one wants to fucking interview them. No media publication, or some of these guys have 10 times platinum songs and they've never had an interview. Like,
Yeah.
really? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on, right? And so this goes back to the name of the company, BeatStars. Like, producers, we are entrepreneurs. They're stars. They're not the guys and girls that are being told to sit in the background in the shadows anymore. They're shaping the sound of music all around the world. They're producing all the TikTok hits. They're producing everything that goes viral on SoundCloud and YouTube. Like, everything that's all the like we had 7 Billboard 100 hits just 2 weeks
Wow.
ago. Like,
Wow.
and no one wants to talk to these guys and girls. Like, it's crazy, right? So
Oh,
for
yeah.
me, it's kind of like a fuck you to the media in a sense. And we're going to build our own media company, and we're going to have our own conversations, and we're going to interview them ourselves, and we're going to shine and showcase these beautiful people and their
I
talent and
love
their
that.
work. You know what
That's
I mean?
awesome.
And
Yeah.
so it's not going to stop with just the podcast. It's going to be even other original content that we're building out. And so we're investing in sharing the stories of these awesome creators that are powering everything you hear on the radio today, and no one wants to take the time to kind of like um, dig into their stories. So we're just going to take it into our own hands and invest in building out a whole media department at BeatStars. So it starts off with the podcast, and it's going to turn into some really cool original programming after that too.
That's awesome. Again, you're empowering the producers, and I love that. I love that. Like, I know that there's companies now. I was talking about this yesterday. I was on a podcast, and there are companies where you can get artificial intelligence to create you a song just like that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of it at all. Um,
Yeah,
and
me too.
yeah, and Apple just and Apple just bought one of those companies, and it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
where are we trending now? So I appreciate
Yeah,
what you're doing. Yeah,
I think
it's so needed.
the temptation of technology sometimes can blind us.
Hmm.
The greed,
Yeah.
um, and when you're always just thinking about profits and shareholders, and you're thinking about how you can make more money, but then you don't think about the people that it impacts, it's a scary, scary, scary
Yeah.
time. And there's always going to need, like, we always need people like me advocating,
Hmm.
fighting for humans.
Exactly.
For humans, like,
Yeah.
is it okay to fight for humans? Like,
I know.
what's wrong with human made music? Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Exactly.
It's shaped
It's
sound for
art.
generations and generations and generations. Like,
Hmm.
are we really solving problems? Are we really solving real world problems, or are we just finding new ways to cut people out of the equation for a
Yeah.
buck? For a buck, really?
Yeah.
Money,
Literally.
money. We're gonna choose money over the 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 like just the overall wellness of just human beings and how they express themselves through art. Like,
Yeah.
really? Like, are we really gonna just, yeah? So anyway, we're gonna have to deal with that at some point. The robots
Mhm.
are coming.
The robots are coming.
The robots are
There
coming.
are, and they're coming fast.
They're coming fast. Terminator predicted this, right?
Right. Yeah.
But you know what I think though? Um, man? I think people still have a heart. And I think artists want to work with other artists and producers want to work with artists, and it's just vice versa. And
Yeah.
I don't think you can replace that human connection that bring people together. We need each other. It's in our DNA. We like me writing a song over a beat that was made by a robot, or a song, like, what kind of connection is that? There's no
Exactly.
connection there. There's no fulfillment, and there's no purpose there. It's Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
No, I totally agree with you. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Abe. I
Thanks,
thank you
man.
for taking the time and sharing some really great knowledge with our community. Before I conclude this podcast, where can our viewers, find you on social media
Yeah, they
and
can
keep in
find
touch?
me on my personal pages at Abe Batshon everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, and at BeatStars on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and all those platforms. BeatStars.com, man. Mac, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me, and for allowing the creator story to be told, and the people behind the scenes that are just trying to help empower people. So I appreciate you, man.
It's my pleasure. And for those watching, let Abe be an inspiration to yourself that the dream and the vision you have in your mind can become a reality, and a wildly successful one too, with hard work. So keep working hard, keep learning, keep pursuing your goals. And until next time, take care and keep making music.